This channel will have two sides to it, suspenseful creepypastas and true creepy stories. The other side will be advice. Yes, this might seem a little bipolar, but both are things I am interested in. If I say that I don't have permission to use a thread or story off of Reddit, it is because I could not contact them. Please note I am rehashing the creepy stories for entertainment, and in some cases to educate and reassure people. Therefore, I understand that the original poster may ask to have their work removed from my channel. If that is the case, and you are offended, I will remove it within 24 hours unless I am literally unable to either receive the complaint or have no access to a computer. I do hope to post 2 types of the videos each day, which means 2 videos total. One for the darker creepy stories and the other for advice. Creepy true stories might be featured a little more than the advice since I need reader feedback for it. In a few months, I plan on making a countdown of the creepy videos in each category, so please like the ones you want to vote for. It makes the poll work. What only the girl could see. Credit to TheJinx. There once was a girl sitting on her sofa, reading a book by the table-side lamp like any other girl might do. Above her hung a blood-stained old woman on the ceiling with grotesquely rotting rims as she slobbered and gasped like a dying fish. But the girl paid no attention. The woman was nothing but gray and red splotches of skin stretched over a skeletal frame, with her elbows and knees bent backwards like a spider clinging to the rafters, her eyes grown over with cataracts as they stared at the girl without seeing, and her decrepit face contorted into a silent scream, strutted around wildly in a disjointed fashion. And finally the girl glanced up toward the ceiling and saw the demonic creature there. But the girl only shook her head and looked away. This girl was a special girl. She had something called hyponergia. She was mentally ill, and science and doctors told her that what she saw wasn't really there. The girl lived in a sort of fantasy. That is to say, she dreamed while she was still awake. This made her quite different from most other people, but what she had wasn't rare, just more than most. Have you ever woken up and couldn't move, but you thought you saw something menacing standing by your bedside or creatures whispering around you? That wasn't a demon or an alien. It was sleep paralysis, and your body did it between when you slept and when you woke. This was the world that the girl inhabited. The girl didn't believe in magic things or spirits. She read lots of books, and all of them told her that the people she saw, sometimes just out of the corner of her eye, other times full on and even staring her down, these people weren't real, and they hadn't lived some life before or came to her for a purpose or something. It was just a trick in the girl's brain, and she reminded herself of that. There were lots of people she would see in visions, sometimes modernly dressed, sometimes looking old-fashioned, and while most of them were strangers, some of them she knew. But like any dream, they were illusionary and quick to disappear. At least, at first. Yet after a while, the things the girl saw began to stay around longer and longer. They started to appear as though they were attached to other people, one might say like the girl's loved ones. First she noticed at her sister's house that when her sister spoke at the dinner table there was a small hunched figure that sat upon her shoulder, its face hidden behind a long beaky mask like a kind of plague doctor used to wear. Her sister wasn't always nice to her, and when she saw that when the bird-looking creature leaned in and whispered into her sister's ear, she would spit out something nasty, like it was feeding the words to her. Of course the girl was frightened, but she didn't want to freak her family out, and so she stayed silent. In time, she would get used to people and the creatures that came along with them. In her mind, she knew that there was a logic to these entities. Like anything a psychologist would tell you. There was a reason for them being there, and the way they were, and who they seemed to be stuck to. Just like there was a reason for what we see in dreams. For instance, her father was a smoker for 40 years, and she could see him followed behind a wheezing, sickly thing with bloated lungs. And that one day his cigarettes might get the better of him. Or the giant faceless man, crackling with laughter, that trailed behind her boss at the supermarket where the girl worked. The boss was always one to shout and then chuckle at his employees to embarrass them, so it only seemed fitting that his creature should be a brutish, monstrous-looking thug. More and more now, the girl could look at any person and see what she called their monster. She was unnerved to the point of trembling as she cashed out an impatient woman at the grocery store one day, watching a gaggle of slithering, glowing gray beasts bounce around her feet with agonized cries like those of children. The girl had only a couple of close loved ones who asked her what theirs looked like, and after, they probably wished they hadn't. It didn't matter where the girl went. It could be at home, or a friend's house, or the airport. The ugly, nasty things trailed each and every human she came across. And then there were the worst ones of all, the truly bizarre and grotesque ones, that couldn't be called demons, even if the girl didn't believe in them. These ones would always go about on the ceiling, like it was their own personal world. They might be big, nasty black hog creatures snorting and snuffling until they opened their toothy mouths and let out a raspy scream. Or gray-blue children, cadavers giggling and crawling around upside down just above the girl's head, taunting her with bloated little faces and wiggling black tongues. Soon the girl learned it was best simply to keep her eyes down upon the floor, for fear of what she might see dangling just above. The girl grew older, and she learned to cope, and led the very best life she could. She was honest with her doctors and her family, and they knew about her struggles, but she was still resolute in the fact that nothing in these waking dreams was real or could hurt her. There was one thing, though, that the girl never told anyone. Not a single soul would ever learn of her deepest and darkest fear. The one she learned she could contain most easily once she lived in her own home, away from the rest of the world. The one that chilled her to the bone in every way that the ceiling creatures never could. The girl turned off the shower head and stepped onto the bathroom carpet, eyelids shut to shield against the mob of dripping brown hair. She fumbled around blindly for a towel, and even as she did, unwittingly, stood behind a nest of slithering bloody white entities, humanoid, yet so foreign from anything the girl had ever seen. And they scattered like cockroaches to the far corners of the ceiling when she wiped away the water and opened her eyes. Wrapping the towel around herself and shivering in uncertainty, she took the brush and as best she could began to tease out her long, wavy hair, her gaze avoiding any shiny reflection that she might unintentionally catch off the shower's sliding glass door. She struggled to dry off and then get her clothing just so to make herself presentable. Standing in front of a bare wall save for the single nail that once held up her mirror, now lying on the floor under a dirty old sheet like all the rest of them. It wasn't that the girl had never seen her monster. Her terrifying secret was that she had, and so she had promised herself that she would never look upon her own face again. At least that thing resurfaced in her eyes. I know you can pick any YouTuber to watch, so I just want to thank you for picking one of my videos. Hope it didn't scare you to death.